Hello and welcome to the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast with me, Clive Barber, and my good mate, Noel Tom. For the days when you can't ride your bike, there's always the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast. Welcome back. I've been looking forward to this one. Been chatting to this guy for a while and we've managed to pin him down. Sadly, Noel can't make it. He's TET'ing in France. Yeah, it's ridiculous how much time that guy has to go away and have fun. So we've got a guest presenter, Marc from the Lightweight Adventurers. Delighted to welcome him. I'm sure he's going to make a great contribution and ask some great questions. Who is it? It's Ben, King on the Road. Here we go.
If you had 4 hours, I would tell you the full story, but I actually worked for Apple twice. And the first time I worked as Ben, long story short, I got fired. It wasn't because of me. Someone else put a photo of me online. It was in this photo went viral back in 2013 or so. I got fired and banned from Apple, and I reapplied 4 years later as Dave. And then I worked for 2 years at Apple Covent Garden, because I worked in Watford the first time, applied for Covent Garden, and worked as Dave for 2 years at Apple. Before I got found out and then left again. and that's when I did my trip. Oh my word, this is amazing. This is so good. Oh wow. I'm sorry about that. I'm literally it's I don't know how I managed to work for all these tech companies when I'm useless with tech. It's hilarious.
You're probably looking at Marc here thinking he's Noel, but he isn't.
I was going to say, where?
Yeah, not.
I'm a very different looking Noel, yeah.
So Noel, I was going to say, unfortunately, it's not unfortunate for him. He's in France touring on his motorbike, so he couldn't make it. So I've asked Marc, you may or may not recognise Marc, but we did a podcast with Marc a few weeks ago, and Jamie, who are the Lightweight Adventurers. So Marc is basically standing in for Noel, because I invited him to come on. I thought, because it tends to work better when there's a few of you having a chat, because it's very much kind of a round table kind of discussion.
So I just realised I haven't done a podcast in a little while. The last time I did one was with Bruce Smart and
Teapot One.
And it was, I think by the end of it, I lost track of what I was saying. I went through so many, I think it was Hazy Janes or Punk IPAs. And it was like, it must have been over 2 hours long. And we must have stopped about 4 times so I could go for a piss, because I just drank too much. And by the end of it, I had no clue what I was saying.
So Ben, what I think I mentioned to you before when we were chatting on WhatsApp is that obviously you've done the one I listened to, which was a great podcast, and they do great podcasts, is the Adventure Rider Radio stuff. The one that you did when you were in Iran with your broken arm and your dysentery or whatever it was. And you'd never have guessed, because you were very professional on that. You did a great job. So that was back in 2018. So what I don't really want to do with this is to rehash that kind of ground that's all there, because people can just go to that podcast in 2018 and you tell everybody about your, round the world trip that you're currently on. So that's a great podcast. So we're going to kind of approach this from a slightly different angle and ask some questions, hopefully, that you've not been asked before.
So I'm honestly, I've been so buzzing for this, because I don't really ever talk about like my trip or bikes really. Like when I first came back, I did I did the adventure run and then I did Bruce, and that's pretty much it. I think I've done like 2 events, and that's really all done. So I'm really excited. It's going to get me in the mood for adventure again.
But to fill people in, it'd be really nice just to talk a little bit about. We'll talk about you first of all. We always like to ask people what they've got in the garage. If you've got a garage, I know you live in North London. Not everybody in London has a garage. And then we'll kind of maybe just talk a little bit about the chronology of your trip. So obviously you had the accident in 2017. You started traveling on the motorbike in whenever it was. And I know you've done South America. You've done kind of around the world. So just to put that in sequence for people as well, and we'll talk a bit about that. Yeah, just tell us who you are and why are we talking to you.
Well, before I begin, I should probably say this for anyone. This is kind of hard following on from Olimoto last week, because he's like a real life superhero who actually saves people's lives. And what do? Just crash my bike. He's like insane. So For anyone who's listening who's expecting someone really cool like Olimoto, then you should switch off now. But so that's about. Sorry, I should say that because then everyone's no, don't switch off. Stay. Don't switch off.
Stick with us.
I'm Ben King. On social media, I'm the King on the Road. People think I'm really arrogant, but it's not. It's just because my last name is King. That's why it's the King on the Road.
Do you know what, Ben? I've always read it without reading it properly until this week as King of the Road.
Yeah, same.
And it's just like, oh, hang on a minute, that isn't quite as arrogant because it's King on the road. It's Ben King, it's his name, and he's travelling on the road. That's fine.
And you know what's really funny, Ben? Before I even bought a CRF, I rode a CRF myself. Before I even bought one, I watched all of your videos and nearly every single video of yours. And so we're talking 2 or 3 years ago here. And up to this week, I thought you was King of the Road.
Well, I tried to go for King of the Road, but it was taken by some guy who's never ever posted anything. I think he's just obviously got the domain name, but never actually used it. So I was going to message him, but in the end, I managed to find King on the Road, and I thought it kind of had a bit of ring. But what was great is that, you know, that song, what's that song? Dum da dum da dum. That song, right? I was like, this is like a sign. I was able to use that song. Slight copyright issue there, but I used that song in one of my videos for like the first one I ever made, and that song is just perfect for like adventure because also that song features in the film Into the Wild with Christopher McCandless, which is an amazing adventure film. That song actually features in that film as well. And I was like, so all these things like came together. Then I found a jazz band in America who did a cover of it, which meant I could use it without the copyright issues. They did a version, they sent it to me, and I was able to use that version on my video. So like all this stuff, like, and those guys were bikers as well, the jazz band. I was like, what are all these things like just fitted in perfectly? It was amazing. So yeah, that's the song that I had on.
I mean, the film Into the Wild didn't end brilliantly, did it? So maybe let's not emulate that one perfectly.
So we've got as far as your name.
Oh yeah, sorry, you have to keep stopping me. I go on like weird tangents and get a bit carried away.
We like that.
And this is only my first sip of the beer, so who knows what's going to happen after the whole crate's done. So Ben, yeah, I'm now 26. Yeah, I'm 26 now. Set off 9 years ago when I was 17. After I was involved in a car crash when I was in school. Luckily, everyone was fine, but it really shook me up, and I just sort of thought I can't do this. So I decided to drop out of school, not go to university, and then just start traveling. So I moved to Vietnam. Lived there for a little while in Saigon, got into motorbikes, ended up restoring old classic bikes that had been abandoned from the Vietnam War, restored those and sold them to expats and whatever, made some money from that, did some teaching on the side, then headed over to South America, got a bike, headed down South America, didn't make it the whole way because I kept crashing my bike loads of times and ended up getting like buses for a little bit of it as well. Finally got down to the bottom, then came back to England, and then shortly after, one of my good friends, India, she passed away with a form of Crohn's disease called ulcerative colitis. She was, similar age to me, only about a year or so older than me. It was super rare to actually get cancer and pass away with ulcerative colitis. But so I thought, I want to keep traveling, but I want to do something good for once. So because her name is India, I thought, what if I ride from London to India to raise money and awareness for Crohn's UK? And that's how the trip came about. But then I also was like, my sister was in Australia at the time. I thought it'd be cool to go and see her. And it's really funny. Like when you look at a map, it gets smaller and smaller the more you look into it. And I thought, well, if I'm already in India, I'm already halfway to Australia, I could keep going. But then I also wanted to do the South America again because I loved it. I also wanted to do the long way round route as well, like going through Russia. I also wanted to do Africa, and I couldn't decide. But I thought, you know what, let's just do the India route first. And the whole kind of the irony, well, the funny thing is that all this, like looking at different routes and planning, and I actually never even made it to India. I only made it to China. I made it to the China. I did actually make it to India. I got to no man's land. Oh, this is so bad. I got to no man's land trying to cross from it. See what? Yeah, it took me almost 2 years, I think, to get from London to the China border with Pakistan. And then you got to no man's land of India, and they said, no, you can't come in. Your visa expired like 3 months ago or something. I hadn't been taking a look at my passport because I spent almost half the year in Pakistan just because I loved it so much. By the time I tried to go to India, my visa had expired, so I had to go back to Pakistan. But yeah, so it was nuts. That was so basically, long story short, that's basically what I've been up to. And then so the visa expired. I couldn't get into India. Then my visa for Pakistan was about to expire. And what was really funny is I can't remember exactly the storyline. I don't know if I mentioned it in the Adventure Rider Radio one, but basically, I'm pretty sure like I got a message from some rich guys in Dubai, who are bikers who'd followed me, and they said, "Hey, we'd love to host you in Dubai one day." And I said, "I'm really sorry, but Dubai's not on my route. I'm heading east, I'm going to try and get to India." They said, oh, well, no worries. Let us know if you ever are in Dubai. And then I think it was that same day, was it, that I couldn't get into India, and then I had to leave Pakistan because my Pakistan visa was about to expire. So I was like, well, actually, hang on, I could just go to Dubai and meet these guys who just messaged me on Instagram. So I did. I think I ended up messaging them saying, actually, funny story, I need to leave Pakistan. Could you host me? They're like, yeah, of course. So I went to Dubai, and they were bikers. They let me stay in their like clubhouse. They had loads of bikes to choose from. So I got to go and ride around Dubai in a KTM 690, which was freaking awesome, which was super random. But anyway, yeah, so I had to leave Pakistan because my visa expired. I couldn't extend it anymore because I'd maxed it out. I'd already spent so long there, and I'd already maxed it out like 4 times maybe. And after extending it 4 times, you have to leave the country. So my only option was to leave the bike in Pakistan, get back to London, get a new visa in the British Pakistan embassy in London, and the plan was then to fly back and continue, and then get a new Indian visa as well and continue east. That's what happened. Then obviously I came back, had an issue with my visa because I had loads of stamps in it. The first time I applied, it was fine. This time I had loads of issues with my stamps that I had in my passport. And they thought, why have you been in Pakistan so long? Why have you got Indian stamp? Why have you got loads of Indian visas and whatever? So they wouldn't give it to me. So I spent ages waiting. When I finally got it, finally got my Pakistan visa and my Indian visa sorted. Literally, it was like 2 or 3 days later. That's when COVID hit, and I was then stuck in, and my bike's still out there. But what's the best thing is people always say, oh, but your it's in pieces now, it's probably destroyed. But what's the coolest part is that it's actually being looked after by the Prime Minister's family. So Imran Khan, who, well, actually, that's a lie. He's not the Prime Minister anymore. But anyone who follows the news will know that he got ousted like 3 weeks ago, maybe?
Yeah, recently.
So that's my claim to fame now gone, because now, yeah, so it's his sister, I think his sister's married to my friend Abdullah had, who just found me on Instagram, didn't know who he was at the time, and then he ended up looking up. So I stayed with him for a while. He hosted me. He's the most amazing person ever. His family's incredible, and yeah, he's looking after my bike.
This is in Pakistan, in Lahore, presumably.
This is in Lahore, yeah, in Lahore.
So I mean, ignore the fact that he's the Prime Minister. He's still an absolute cricket legend as well. And then we're talking about
exactly.
So you know, your claim to fame is it's with an absolute cricket legend, a name that will go down in the channels of history. That's incredible. How do you get to know these people?
I basically planned my whole route through social media. By the way, I have to say I hate social media with a passion. I think social media is like the worst thing. Like it's just ruining young people today. But also, when you're doing a trip, it's the greatest thing because it puts you in touch with people. So for me, I spend my time life looking at social media and looking, like you guys went to Spain recently, right? And I was getting so jealous. And I was like, man, why am I still looking at social media? It makes me sad. Here I am stuck behind a desk. I want to be free. So in that way, I hate social media. But then, you know, just because I was just jealous of you guys having a fun time, because I'm a horrible person. But like when you're on a trip, it's amazing, right? Because you can just connect with so many people. And that was basically how I planned my route. And I would sort of say where people knew I was heading east, and then people would just message me and say, hey, listen, I see you're, you know, in this place, when you get to the next town, I'd love to host you. Or when you get to New York or Cape Town or wherever, I've got a beer for you. Or you know, you got a spare bed, or I'll fix your bike for you. There's all these different offers. So I think when I set off, I think it took me about like 6, 7, 8 months maybe to leave Europe. And I know some people have gone around the world in less than that time, and that's how long it took me to get out of Turkey. Just because I kept getting messages on Instagram from people saying, I see that you're near me. Come and meet my friend. He's only like, I don't know, 300 kilometers from you. I was like, cool, why not? So I literally would just turn around and go in a different direction. So I was heading down Italy, and some guy messaged me, Dan Banks in Switzerland, said, hey, I'd love to host you in Switzerland. You can stay in my chalet, meet my family, and I'll give you a tour of the Alps. And I was like, yes. So I turned around, did a massive detour up to Switzerland, and then I stayed with him. He was the most amazing person ever. I was supposed to head east, then to Turkey, but he said, oh no, you must meet my friend Billy. He lives in the Nürburgring, which is completely the wrong direction. It's north, back towards England. But I was like, well, why not? And then I ended up spending like, I think 5 or 6 weeks. I ended up staying at the Nürburgring, just living with him and his family. This guy I'd never met, just happened to be a friend of this other guy who'd messaged me on Instagram, who like, it was just so random.
And you know what,
I'm not dead.
And social media is full of all these characters, which you don't know from Adam, and they could be anywhere. So how do you place your trust in complete strangers?
Yeah, it's so funny. If you like, the first thing you're told when you're a kid, like your parents always say, don't get into like stranger's car, don't talk to strangers or whatever. And basically, when you're traveling, that's pretty much all you do every day is just get into random people's cars. If you're backpacking or I'm talking to strangers, if you're doing an overland trip. And that's literally what I did all the time. And now I think about it, it's actually a miracle that I'm not dead. But I don't know how, but it's weird. You get this.
We'll come on to that.
Like weird. You get this like weird. I can't describe it. People meet me, right, and they always, maybe I give this impression, maybe I don't know, but they always think I'm like this really stupid, naive person. To be fair, some of the stories I tell, actually, I don't blame them for thinking that. Actually, I'm not surprised. But like, I don't know. After all these years, I feel like I'm a fairly good judge of character now. And then when I was 17 and left England, I was super naive and stupid, and I ended up getting mugged in, I think, Cambodia, and got everything stolen from me. And I was super trusting of everyone then, and I think I was late at night walking along the beach by myself, and it was just an idiot. And I think I learned that, like, the hard way, never to. And then they came out with knives out of the bushes along this beachfront, and that was terrifying. But like, to be fair, it was Sihanoukville. I would never go back to anyone. I would never ever go back to Cambodia purely because of that. I'm sure it's a lovely place, but purely because of that one moment, I'm done with Cambodia. But anyway, sorry if any Cambodians are watching. I'm sure you're all lovely people. That scarred me for life, that moment. Anyway, so I went on a tangent. Yeah, so after that happened, and ever since then, nothing has ever gone wrong, ever. I've had nothing stolen. No one's tried to harm me. Like, and I think so now I'm like cautious, but I don't give the impression that I'm cautious.
The lovely thing about you, Ben, is you come across, you have a really positive attitude, and that shines through on the social media that you do. And you do a lot of live Facebook stuff, don't you? Which is what I was kind of watching while you were traveling. So you're endlessly optimistic. You're absolutely friendly. People must warm to you almost instantly, and almost, speaking as a father, kind of want to look after you. Do you kind of recognize that in yourself, that you are this very optimistic, friendly chap?
100%. Everyone who I always meet, the first question they often ask me is where I get my cocaine from. It's always, and I'm like, no, sorry, I wouldn't be able to do a trip if I was buying this crazy expensive drug. Because I work, and that's another. Oh yeah, so I've always, no matter what, I've always tried to be positive, and I think a smile goes such a long way. So everyone says that, it's so cliche, but it is true. A smile goes a long way. As soon as you smiling, especially when you're by yourself, people just see you as not a threat. And another thing is, like, even when things went wrong, and I don't know, and I had like some bad moments, I always would stay positive because I'd worked so hard to get on the trip. People always used to think that I was like a spoiled rich kid who had my parents pay for my trip. Which is not the case at all. I literally did everything. I had to work multiple jobs, which I think I talked about in Adventure Rider Radio. I was doing multiple jobs, getting up at like 4 a.m. to do online shopping at the Waitrose store. The crazy rich people in Hertfordshire who needed their food at 6 a.m.
If you didn't want people to think you were rich, you should have probably said Morrison's or somewhere like that, not Waitrose.
Come on, Ben.
I know. I did not help myself there. Wait, did I say Waitrose? Sorry, I meant Poundland. I was getting up at 4 a.m. to do the online shopping for the delivery drivers for Poundland, and I would do that and then get the train into London and do a full shift at Apple, and then would finish that and then come back and do more work. And it was like doing that non-stop. And I did that for, over 18 months, I think, in the end, until I was so burnt out that I was just so run down from doing crazy hours and having no days off that that's when I finally left. And I think because I'd worked so hard for it, and every single day, like, when like something's in your head, and every single morning you wake up until you go to sleep, that's the only thing that I thought about was doing the trip. And I literally would spend every day listening to Adventure Rider Radio podcasts, watching videos on YouTube of people traveling. And that was literally that was what I thought about. It like consumed me. So when I got on the road, when things went wrong, I was like, I knew this was going to happen. I've dreamed of this for so long. I've worked so hard for this moment that nothing could ever make me feel sad. And I think that's just sort of stayed with me now, from forever. And
do you think there was ever a danger then when you got on the road that potentially it could let you down because you'd looked forward to it for so long and worked so hard for it? It's on this panacea, it's on this pedestal, and then all of a sudden, oh, this is it?
I actually never even thought about that. That's actually a good point, because it could have been so disappointing, and I could have got through Europe and just been like, no, this isn't for me, and come home. But to be fair, people thought that actually when I went to the Nürburgring and spent ages there. Everyone on social media thought, I thought you go around the world and you just stuck in the Nürburgring in Germany. and at this point, I think I've been on the road for like a couple of months now, because I've gone down to Italy and then back up again. And I think I actually ended up further north than when I'd left London at one point when I was like near the Danish border. And people thought I'd just given up. It's funny, for most people, Europe is the first thing that they do when they go get like a motorbike or go into like maybe a cyclist or a biker. Europe is the first place they explore. And so, but for me, I'd never done Europe. I'd done Eastern Asia and I'd done South America, but I'd never done Europe. So for me, Europe was this exciting adventure. So I was loving it. And I was like, but everyone else was like, what why is he spending so long in Europe? Like, what? And it's so, but yeah, you're right. I never actually, there's not a single moment when I ever thought, no, this isn't me. I think I just loved, I think I was just on adrenaline the entire time. Honestly, it was only when I came back from Pakistan and it finally like hit me. Oh, wow. Like it all sort of built up. And that's when I got like the holiday blues, like to an extreme. Like I'd never felt anything like that in my life. That was a crazy feeling coming back from Pakistan and COVID hit and knowing that I couldn't go back on the road again. And I was like, this is all I've thought about all I've done for like 5 years. That was crazy.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because I've been on, the first time I went to Morocco, I think I was there for 6 days, and I came back and I reckon I was depressed for about a month afterwards, because it had been this amazing experience for 6 days, and it's just like, I need to go and do that again, and I just booked on to go for the following year as well. But it's interesting, isn't it, the way you must feel like you've got unfinished business, really, because your bike's still out there. You presumably you're working again now to save enough money up so you can get back out there.
100%. It's really weird. If I'd known, because so the initial plan was obviously to try and ride around the world and get the world record and become the youngest whatever to go solo around the world. And then literally as soon as I got on the road, it was really funny because when I left England, everyone was saying, loads of people were messaging me saying, don't let this record, like, don't let it take over you're having a good time. Make sure you still enjoy the trip. And whatever. And they were like, oh, we don't right now. I didn't really understand what they were saying. And literally as soon as I got on the road, and as soon as I started meeting people and staying with people and spending weeks and weeks in each place and getting to know it well, I suddenly realized what they meant. Because you don't want to rush around because it's such a once in a lifetime experience. So and I slowed down. I ended up actually getting disqualified actually from the world record because the record states you can't spend more than 2 weeks in one place. You've got to be constantly moving in the same direction. And I think I got disqualified within like the first month from it. So after that, I just slowed down and enjoyed it. And part of me thinks, if I'd known there was going to be a pandemic, would I have sped up and done more and done the whole world? Because I could have done the whole world in the 2 years it took me to get to China. But I'm like, I don't know. I constantly have this battle in my head, like, would I have sped up or not? Personally, I'm glad I did the way I did, because I wouldn't have had half the experiences I had and met the people I'd met and gotten to know the place so well. But then at the same time, it would have been cool to have seen more. Because, you see, I've got unfinished business and I want to do it. So I'm literally just, at the moment, I have to make sure that my boss doesn't listen to whatever I say on this podcast. But so obviously I've been working to save up. I've got to get this. So next year I want to get this trip done, because until I've completed it, I won't be able to rest. It's like it's always in my head. And I want to go back and continue doing it at the same pace I did before. Last year, I got a job in marketing because I came back from Pakistan. Then during the pandemic, I was like, I want to keep busy. So I got a job as a Waitrose delivery driver to keep myself busy, during COVID. This is back when we thought it was only going to be a few months. And then I thought I could then do that for a little bit and then head off back to Pakistan and continue. Then it went on for about a year and I thought, I can't be a delivery driver. I can't keep doing this if this pandemic is going to go on for longer. So I was like, okay, let's look at doing jobs. But I've got no qualifications, no skills really. So I thought marketing could be quite a fun thing to do. So I looked and I ended up getting a job in marketing. And then about 4 months later, I got a call from Google asking me if I wanted to join Google. So I actually had to leave. And then I moved over to Google. So I'm with Google now.
When you go back and get your bike next year, hopefully, Ben, how long do you think the trip will? Have you got a design of how long it'll take you, or are you just open-ended? We'll complete this.
What I'm doing right now with Google is I actually love my job, and I'm really enjoying it. And so obviously the initial plan was just to go straight off, but I want to stay doing what I'm doing for a little while, and also obviously want to go on the road. So I mean, in an ideal world, if I can leave and do my trip and then come back. Maybe then go back to Google. That would be great, because it's a great team. It's a great job itself. It's really rewarding, and it's what I want to do. But then obviously, if I plan on spending 7 years finishing my trip, there's no way they're going to take me back after 7 years. I'm like, I've got to think now. What do I do? Do I do it in different stages or what? And I mean, I could go around the world like most people do and do it in less than a year. But I just feel like going slowly is such a great way of you meet so many people. Like. I just love it. It's really
funny. Whenever I speak with travelers, yourself or anybody that's traveled extensively by any means, really. It comes down to a matter of identity, doesn't it? They work to pay the bills back home, so they might be a marketeer, they might be a trainer, they might be whichever. But at their heart, they're a traveller. But of course, traveling doesn't necessarily pay the bills; it pays your existence traveling. So I think it's really a matter of self-identity. And I just wondered, what's your take on it? Do you see yourself as a traveller, or do you see yourself as a corporate marketing man, or what do you see yourself as?
So yeah, since I was 17, I had the car crash. I feel like all I've always been, all I've thought about, all I've done is been traveling. And when I've come back to England to save up money to go back traveling again, all I've thought about is being back on the road. And I've always I've never in terms of like, if I've been dating someone, I've never wanted to commit to a girl and, have a serious relationship, because I've always known I'm leaving again and I don't want to upset her or whatever. So it basically has like consumed my entire life for 9 years. So and also I wouldn't even consider myself a biker. Biking is purely like, I'm like the worst rider ever. Biking is purely like it's just a means getting around. I think biking is just a mode of transport. Although saying that, actually, I need to speak to you guys about this actually as well. But I really, really want to get. Speaking of like being an awful rider, I want to get into like more off-road riding, because I've got the Bonneville, the Bonneville 200 Black now. That was my dream bike for years. I finally got that, and that's in my garage at the moment. But I miss the CRF. I miss getting off road. And I went to the peaks not too long ago with some friends, and we did some off roading, and it was so much fun. It was epic. Like, I want to do more like off roading. And even like last year at the ABR Festival, I couldn't ride the Bonneville off road because, well, I would have just destroyed it because I'm so bad. Plus, the Bonneville was not really designed for off road. So I ended up going on the back of other people's bikes. Went on the back of a guy, Bike at Ed. I don't know if you know him from Instagram. Awesome guy. Yeah. You often ride with like HP2 Mav and
that's right. Yeah.
They're all amazing. I was going on the back of them and it was so much fun. I was like, I want to do this on a bike. So I miss having the CRF in England. But I wish. So yeah, if you know of anyone who's selling a cheap enduro bike, whatever, that would be. I want to do more.
The CRF is the perfect bike for it. I've gone from a KTM 400 enduro bike, which is very old now, to a CRF 300, and it's fine. It's a bit heavy and it's a bit underpowered, but it's perfect for trail riding around here. But I think it's interesting, your journey to off-road stuff is just a journey that I know. I went out with some guys at the weekend into the Yorkshire Dales, and there was a guy there who was about 65, and he's just discovered trail riding. He said, I've been riding road bikes all my life, and he said, why didn't I do this 40 years ago? I've had more fun today than I've had in the last 10 years worth of riding. I
only got into off-road riding maybe 2 years or so ago, and I'll repeat, partly inspired by yourself, Ben, so cheers for that. But I bought a CRF. So I bought a CRF 250, and so did the guy that I run our channel with, off the back of your meeting with Austin Vince. I watched that video when you went down and modified your CRF. So what delivered you at the CRF? Because I know what delivered me at the CRF, but because there's a number of bikes out there that's sort of capable for what you might have chosen, but why the CRF?
Oh my gosh, there's just so many things that I wanted to. Oh, there's too many things to talk about. This is amazing. Okay, so funny story. When I left, when I wanted to leave, I initially was looking at the Bonneville for my trip back in 2016, because I've always wanted a Bonneville since I was a little kid. But then I thought, it's not really a practical bike. So then I started looking at the BMW F800 and the Tiger 800 as well. And I remember going to, I think I met Austin for the first time at a travel show somewhere in London, Olympia, I think it was. It wasn't like one of the big shows. It was like a small little show, and he was doing a little seminar sort of thing. I think he was doing it with Lewis actually. And I'd never met him before, and I saw him, and straight away we got on so well. And I said about us doing this trip, and he said, "Oh, where do you live?" I said, "I live near Watford, near Hertfordshire." He goes, "Oh, I live literally like 10 minutes down the road from me." So he invited me to his canal boat where he had his CRFs, and we got chatting. And he said, "Have you thought about the CRF?" I said, "Well, no, I wanted a BMW or a Triumph." And so he said, "No, don't go for these big bikes. You need something small and light." And I was like, "What?" I'm not gonna lie. The first time I saw the CRF, I looked at it. I thought, it doesn't do anything for me. But in my head, after all the stuff that I'd seen on TV, for me, a big bike looked cool, and I was so caught up in wanting to look cool when I was doing this trip. And I was like, "No, I want to do a big bike with panniers and everything." And I saw the CRF, and I instantly just thought, no. Honestly, I can't believe I'm actually saying this out loud right now. I feel ashamed as I say it out loud, because now I look at my CRF and I just think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. But at the time, I was like, "Oh, no, I want to go for a big bike that's shiny and whatever." Anyway, I actually put a deposit down on a Triumph Tiger 800, and I went to the Hemel Hempstead to the dealership to pick it up. And I hope the guy doesn't work there anymore, because the guy
when I went to pick it up, the guy who was selling it, he couldn't get it off the center stand. And he was a big guy. And I was like, this is embarrassing. If he can't get it, he's like a bodybuilder. I'm like a weedy little stick. I don't like my nickname at Apple was Twiglet because I'm so just like I can snap. And I was like, man, if he can't do it, I've got no hope. And I literally said, and I had this weird thing. I was like, nope, I can't go for this. So I actually pulled out of the deal. And I'd already put a deposit down on this Triumph Tiger. I'd also put a deposit down on a Bonneville. I think I just started chucking deposits down. I think I had like £1,000 worth of money on deposits. Somehow I got all the money back, which is nuts. Wow. Normally they you have no leg to stand on. They have every right to keep it. But I ended up harassing them, like all the companies. I kept emailing them every day, and eventually I got the money back, luckily. But anyway, Austin, and I went with Austin's thing, and that was it. He said, let's go for a little spin. So he put some cones out in his yard and he made me do a little figure of 8 thing in his yard because obviously he was on his bike and he was going to be trusting me with Lois's bike. And I think at this point, I don't even think I had a license yet. I don't know if am I allowed to admit that? I hope there's no police who listen to this. Because we did a little, so obviously you could see that I wasn't completely dumb because I'd ridden across Asia, I'd ridden across down South America, and so I'd done, and Morocco. So I'd done riding for years, but I still didn't have a license in the UK. So it was like it was like a person on a bike. Well, they're saying that every time I get on a bike, it looks like it's my first time because I'm so bad. But luckily I didn't crash, and he's trusted me with Lewis's bike. And then we went on down the lanes and stuff around Uxbridge, and I loved it. I thought this is great. It's light and easy, and that's why I went. And so I went for the CRF, and it's all thanks to Austin. Honestly, if it hadn't been for Austin, I would have gone for a Bonneville, or like an old Bonneville, or a Triumph Tiger, or a BMW 800. And he literally saved me, and then he did, and yeah, they of course, yeah, they literally the next day after buying it, we went straight to his and started drilling into it and putting a shopping basket thing on the front and like all this stuff. And then I literally crashed. I went to his he invited me down to one of his mini mundos, which was actually incredible. It was so good. It was like a little shakedown trip, and I was so unprepared for that. And I literally think the first time I crashed, I just smashed off that front basket that he drilled into the bike. It came off straight away, and I was like, how on earth has he managed to keep his on his bike for so many years? Like, what? My first crash and it came off. Anyway, so clearly he's a much better rider than me. But yeah, that's how I ended up with the CRF. Long story short.
Well, it's funny actually because you put a luggage rack on the side of yours, or Austin had put a beam across so that your bags wouldn't swing into the wheel. And I remember seeing that particular thing. And recently I was down in the south of Spain on mine, and we had an incident anyway. And so we found a little workshop, and I said to Jamie, who I was riding with, I said, I'm going to do an Austin Vince fix on this. And from all those years back, watching him do that on your bike, we did the same on mine in the south of Spain. So there you go. There's your little legacy right there, but it's sitting in my garage.
No way! What? And wait, what luggage system then have you got on your CRF at the moment?
Just a soft bag, which is like a saddle bag, but just flops over. It's Bagtex. It's cheap and it's affordable. But I ride the Rally, which has typically got the fairings. So, and I'd snapped this tool tube off, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody that's listening and watching our series, but it snapped this thing. So we made the Austin Vince brace, which again, if anybody's watching this and waiting for our series, it'll spoil it. But yeah, and it's all down to watching you and what he had done to your bike. So, and I knew it had worked. So therefore we went and did it. So there you go. It's fantastic.
I've got the fabulous new Adventure Spec Magadans on my bike.
Yeah, I'm very envious.
Yes.
And I'm incredibly envious. Yeah.
I saw that actually. Yeah, on your trip recently. I was honestly, I'm praying that you one day when I get a CF again here, that you'll invite me into your private riding club and invite me down to Spain. Because honestly, it looked like you had the best time. Honestly, and Greg is like gets the coolest shots. It looked amazing.
Yeah, there's 3 very, very good photographers and filmmakers on those trips. So we're very lucky. And I saw the first draft of the film as well last week.
Oh yeah,
it looks absolutely ace. Yeah, so I think it's going to be another crack.
I was speaking with Greg only last week, and he said you had 6 hours footage. Because sorry, Ben, I must explain that Clive and I went on separate trips to Spain at the same time. So we were going south. These guys were coming east-west. So we were intending to meet up actually, but it never happened. But yeah, I was speaking with Greg, and he said you had 6 hours of footage condensed to a film of 25 minutes. Whereas we've got 20 hours of footage, and we've put 20 hours of footage out on our channel.
It should be out, I think, in the next couple of weeks because he's done the first draft. It's pretty much there. So listen, Ben, I want to change the subject slightly because I'm a parent. I mean, I know I don't look old enough, but I've got a son. My oldest son's a little bit younger than you, but not far off you. Now, if my son went and did what you did, I would be fucking terrified. So how on earth did your parents cope? And would you like to say anything to them?
Well, I mean, that's actually partly the reason why I made the Instagram account in the first place, was because when I did the Asia trip in South America, I never told my family what was going on. And I didn't tell them, so I didn't tell them that I'd got a motorbike. So obviously when I was 17, obviously I had the car crash, really bad, and then left. The worst thing they would have wanted to hear was that I'd just, after surviving a car crash, and just got a motorbike. So I was like, I can't tell them. So I didn't tell them. And I was out there. I was over a year out in Eastern Asia, and the whole year they didn't know that I was on a motorbike. They didn't know that I got into bikes at all. I had no photo, because back then Instagram wasn't really a thing. And actually, after having my phone stolen in Cambodia, after that mugging, I didn't have a phone anyway, so I had no place to upload or do anything. So I literally and I think there was a period when I didn't speak to my family for months. They didn't even hear my voice, which, looking back now, I was a bad son, and I would never do that again. But yeah, they knew nothing. And then obviously to South America on the bike, didn't tell them that either. It was only when I came back to England that I finally told them what I'd been up to. And this is where I made a mistake, because when I came back to England, I stupidly told them all the horror stories that had happened, which is, I shouldn't have done that, because then it meant that when I then set off on the Honda CRF trip to East, they knew when I was on the road that stuff happens that I don't tell them about, and because then because I'll and so it was. Oh, it was. So I think my parents were super stressed, and especially I think in Europe they were fine, but when I got into Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Iran, Pakistan, especially going through Balochistan, that section there, as you're just hugging the Afghanistan border for 4 days, they were very stressed then. And I would often remove, I would post always behind, like, after. So yeah, I would never be live. I'd always post like a week later or whatever, so they wouldn't actually know what was going on until after I escaped. There was only one time they ever knew where I was in real time, and I think it was the only time I was ever actually properly scared. Probably was when I was in that jail in Balochistan, crossing from Iran to Pakistan. And that's when I was like, okay, this could actually be quite bad. And that's the only time I had to call my mum.
Hang on a minute. You've just said you were in jail. I must have missed this story.
When you cross into Pakistan, often they'll put you in like a little police station thing while you wait for your escort.
Oh, okay. So you hadn't been arrested. It was just for your own safety. Yeah. So
that's pretty normal. But then later on, shortly after, I was then put in an actual jail. And I was like, hang on a second, what's going on? This doesn't seem as chilled as the other one. And then it turned out and I couldn't find out what was going on. Turns out that they'd a suicide bomber had killed himself and a couple of others nearby, and so they wanted to basically make sure that I was safe, and so they just put me in jail to keep me safe, which is amazing.
The weirdest part of that whole conversation, Ben, is when you went, I was in jail and it didn't feel particularly chilled out, and that doesn't overly surprise me, if I'm quite honest.
and then in the end, I had to get my bike, and also at this point my bike is broken. So the Honda CRF, anyone who's listening, the CRF is the most incredible bulletproof machine ever. For 2 years from London to China, I had not a single issue with it. Like, it was insane. And bear in mind, by the way, I didn't lube my chain for like 8 months. I didn't lube it at all. I just left it because I didn't have a clue I didn't know anything about mechanics or maintenance. So if you want to have a bulletproof bike, get a CRF, because you can leave it for like literally over half a year without lubing the chain, without doing anything, and it's fine. Like, how insane is that? Anyway, sorry, that was a tangent. But basically, the CRF was amazing. The only problem I had with it was the fuel tank. And it was because I changed from the stock. If I'd left the CRF as it was, I would have made it to China without any issues. It was only because I changed it and put on the IMS tank, which the IMS tank is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but the one they gave me, I think they gave me the first IMS extra large tank for the new 2017 ABS model, because they had one for the previous model, but they had to change it and so I think they gave me the prototype to test out on my trip. Turned out, the seal wasn't right, and so that's why it broke, and whatever. That was the only problem I had on the entire trip was that, pretty much. And that's what happened when I was in Pakistan. And so I couldn't get out of this. Well, I was finally able to get permission from the embassy in Islamabad to get my bike to get out of the jail because I couldn't ride to Lahore. I had to put it on a train. So they managed to get me to put it on the back of the train, and then they gave me a commando escorted me on this train through the desert for ages to Lahore, and that was the only time I was ever properly scared, which I'll admit, because I was pretty chilled until they got the chief of police to speak to me, and they said, "Listen, trains are like the most targeted." I don't know why I'm smiling as I'm saying this. Trains are the most targeted mode of transport by the Taliban, and they'll always cross where we are near Quetta. That's where they'll always cross, and they'll always try and derail the train and just cause mayhem. So they said, because of that reason, we can't let anyone know you're on the train, and you can't. You talk to anyone on the train, you can't accept food from anyone. They could try and poison you. And so they had this command. They said, "Oh, we're going to give you a commando as well. He's going to sit with you the whole way." So I get on this train. They cleared out a section of the train just for me and this commando. And every time we get to a station, he gets off and stands by the sort of the window thing. There's just a hole in the train with bars across. And he just stands there and makes sure that no one comes up and shoots me, whatever. And yeah, before I got on that train, I called my mum and said, "Listen, this is what's happening. If you don't hear from me in a couple of days, then something's happened." And called it was the only time I ever told her where I was in real time. Crikey. And now I look back, that was a stupid idea. Like, why did I do that? Because she must have been. Now we spoke about it, she was terrified for literally that whole time that she was waiting for that phone call. When I finally got to Lahore and got to safety, she must have been so stressed, and I feel so awful. So I'll never do it again. Next, when I'm back on the road, she won't know anything until I'm back home safely in London. People are just genuinely nicer once you leave England and leave Europe. They're just 10 times more friendly. And there was not a single person. Yes, after, like I just spoke about at the beginning, all the random people that I stayed with along my trip. I think there was only one person after 2 years of living with locals and meeting random people every single day. Only one person in 2 years I got a dodgy vibe from, and I ended up actually leaving and said, "Actually, no, I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to leave." That was the only one. Which is nuts. Out of probably what? Over, I don't know, 400 people, maybe more than that I met. Like, that's insane.
You don't have to leave England. You just have to come up north, mate. Much more friendly.
Actually, you know what? That's a good point. I basically slagged off everyone in England. That's not fair, because I went to Scotland. I went down to Cornwall. So when I came back, Royal Enfield gave me a bike to borrow, the Himalayan. When I first came back, when I was waiting for my visa. I hope they don't listen to this, because they know this. But I took the Royal Enfield, went down, and whenever I see a beach or sand, I have to go onto the beach. And I was like, "Oh my word, beach!" But then obviously I don't know how to ride on sand, so I kept getting stuck, and I actually burnt the clutch out of this Himalayan and it to come and rescue me. And then they never gave me another bike after that. But anyway, so Cornwall, went down to Cornwall, and the people, as soon as you get out of London, people in Cornwall, they leave their doors open. They don't lock their house. They just leave their keys in their ignition. It's so chill. It's completely different to London. And then I went up to Scotland last year on the Bonneville for a little road trip. That was incredible. Oh my word! So I went up through the peaks, up through Lake District. I'm actually going to the Peak District this weekend.
You're coming up on the Bonneville, or are you heading off road in the peaks?
I'm coming up in the on the Bonneville. Friends of mine who actually met them the ABR last year. Amazing couple, and she's actually setting off for like a 4-month or so trip to. I think she was supposed to head to Russia, but that's obviously out the window. So I think she's now doing. Yeah, I need to find out actually. I think she's doing Europe, maybe heading a bit further east. So having a little going away party for her in the peaks, which should be awesome. And then so that hopefully maybe do some off-roading on the Bonneville, because I took the Bonneville off-roading to Wales 2 weeks ago for the first time, doing some trail, which was absolutely amazing. It was terrifying, and I put some crash bars on the Bonneville just because I was so scared of scratching it. Which is funny, because the Honda, I dropped it every single day. I never even cared. But the Bonneville, I was so scared because it's just so immaculate. But that was great fun. Now that's what made me even want to do more off-roading. So, but yeah, they got loads of bikes in the peaks up there. So I hope I could borrow hopefully one of theirs and do some off-roading, because I love it.
Speaking of the ABR Festival, one of the questions I had is you've been very much in the adventure bike world for the last couple of years with your trips and your fantastic videos and stuff. And you're an A-lister adventure rider. So my question was, what is, and it sounds like maybe it's not quite as exciting as I imagined it to be, but what's the life like as an A-list moto adventurer?
Oh, well, I honestly do. I did not put myself in that category. All I did. If you look on a map, all I did was right. It's actually embarrassing that the fact that these people actually invite me to these festivals to speak. And if you look on a map, I literally went like a tiny, like the length of my pinky finger, like from London to China. You could do that in like 3 weeks if you wanted to. Like, honestly, it's pathetic. And they invite me to, yeah, there's people who've been like around the world like 10 times, or people like Austin Vince who, paved the way, or, like all these amazing people. And then there's me, like, what is, it's just nuts. So yeah, honestly, every time I go to these events, I feel so grateful to be there. It's so much fun. And also, what's funny is that most people at these events can probably can't even understand a word I say, because when I start talking about a trip, I get so excited that I end up speaking so fast that everything just blurs into one. So they're pretty sad, like, what is he talking about? Anyway, especially after a brewdog. That's why no beer at the ABR, I think. but yes, it's great, and I'll be doing a talk at the. Actually, I should probably check this. Actually, I need to double check, but I think I'm doing a talk on one of the little mini stages, and then I'm doing a little panel talk with three other guys who've been around the world. They are actually the 3 youngest people to go around the world. Amazing guys. That's actually who I was in Wales with last 2 weeks ago. We're working on a little thing, and so yeah, it's gonna be an awesome weekend. Because I remember you said last week that you're there, right? You're doing like a podcast at the event.
Yeah, just been confirmed. I'm gonna do some filming and recording with the TRF for one thing, and then we're going to arrange a little TAMP podcast social on the Friday evening, just for people to come along and say hello. We'll meet at the TRF tent, or whatever the venue is, the stage, whatever they've got there, and then we'll probably head off to the bar and have some beers. So anybody listening, Ben, Marc, you're both invited. Come along Friday evening, 5:00, have a chat with everybody and get drunk.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds brilliant, doesn't it? It's my first time to the ABR, actually. Last year, we didn't quite make it down. So this year, we're going along, Jamie and I, the other lad that I filmed with. And yeah, I don't really know what to make of the whole place. It's actually our first time down there. I don't know if Clive's been before, but it's our first time down to it, Jamie and I. So I don't really know what to make of it all. But yeah, I'm excited about it.
It's incredible. I mean, there's loads. Some people would say it's too corporate and it's too big, but I had the most amazing time, and I think some people might be. I don't know if any people who listen to your podcast might have complained about the queue for the bars or something. I think they addressed this. They've said that they've got like a 40-meter long bar at this event, which is just going to be absolutely insane. I'm so excited. I think it starts on like the Thursday, right? So I'm just going to arrive on Thursday night and just spend the entire time at the bar, except when I have to leave and go to on stage. But honestly, it's so great. And yeah, so they've got like the longest off-road track. So you can rent. I think loads of the dealerships are giving out. You can borrow bikes and do the off-road track on these bikes, or bring your own bike as well. Oh, I'm so buzzing. It's gonna be and I'm so glad you guys are going as well. It's gonna be amazing. So is the TRF stand, is that near to Austin's tent? Because I remember he was there last year, and we created a little zone around him.
I think the TRF are going to have like almost a kind of an unofficial compound of their own. So they've got a stage, and they're going to do. I think if you're a member, you get free barbecue one night and maybe a beer or something like that. So there's quite a bit of stuff, and they've got their own stage as well. So they're going to have a bunch of events Friday and Saturday.
Oh, amazing!
Absolutely brilliant.
I'm still undecided yet if I'm brave enough to take the Bonneville on the off-road track, because it's like 20 kilometers of off-road, right?
The real problem with bikes like that, because I used to take my CB500 off-road, it's the ground clearance. That's the main issue. They'll do it, but you risk, doing quite a bit of damage to the sump of your engine, really.
I mean, ultimately, Ben, and I might regret this, but you're more than welcome to razz my rally around it, my CRF rally. You're more than welcome, because I'll be going around it. So
I will buy you endless beer if I could borrow your. Although you definitely won't regret it.
One of the things I quite like about the way you planned your travel, Ben, is it doesn't sound like you did any planning at all. You just decided you were going to do it, and off you went.
Well, exactly it. So the plan was to plan a route, but then that plan went out the window. I ended up, to try and save as much money as possible, I ended up working right up until the last point of when I left. So I left from Mill Hill School, from the Adventure Charity Film Festival, which is obviously where Austin went and used to teach, and then obviously you had the film festival there before he moved. And so I set off from that venue, and I literally worked right up to the last point before his festival, before I had to leave. And so because I was working so much, I had no time to actually plan a route or do any preparation. And I think my tyres, my Anarchy Wilds, only arrived like the day before I left. So it was all super like super last minute.
Can you fix a puncture?
Oh, you can't ask me that in public.
It's okay. I fucking hate doing it as well. I always take them into somebody else.
What is that? What's the puncture? Is that when the air spins out that hole? Is that what you mean? It wasn't the tires didn't. I really hope Austin Vince doesn't listen to this talk. The Michelin tires didn't actually arrive the day before I left. They actually arrived after. So everyone, I did a big clap out from Mill Hill School, and everyone counted me down from 10. And then I set off from Mill Hill School, and everyone thought I was heading down.
You were going home.
Round the corner, get his tires changed.
Everyone thought I was going to the ferry and crossing to France, but I didn't. I actually drove, because Mill Hill School was very close to my house. I actually went straight home to it was like a 15-minute journey. I went straight home. I went straight to bed because I was still drunk. So I'd actually been out. Oh, I'm gonna expose myself now. I'd been out with all the Honda, because loads of Honda people were there, right? It was a Honda event. I can say this now because Honda don't sponsor the event anymore. I think it's now Toyota. But I was out with all the Honda people, and we were up till like 6 a.m. in the morning. And I think the leading deal was at 8 or 9. I had about 2 hours sleep. Well, sleep's a bit of an overstatement, but I literally got out of 10, and I think Noel was there.
Hey, you don't get this on Adventure Rider Radio, do you?
Well, no, so all this stuff I couldn't expose any of these secrets back in 2018, but now I can finally come clean. Although Austin's going to murder me, but I literally, So yeah, it was nuts. If you look at the photos of me setting off, I think Adventure Spec posted a photo on their Twitter of me leaving, and I look like a ghost. I'm like super white and pale,
overwhelmed by the adventure ahead of you. Yeah.
And so I literally went straight home, slept for 18 hours. Then finally my tires arrived the next day, fitted them, and then I finally headed down. It was a nightmare. But anyway, that was so yeah, basically I had that. Long story short, I had no time to plan. So I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I literally set off, finally got down south of France, headed into Italy, and then that was it. That was it. The very first person I stayed with was someone I met. I pulled over at the side of the road I don't know why, I just pulled over at the side of the road, and there was a camper van. I think this is in France. Camper van pulled over as well. I got chatting to the family. They said, are you hungry? And I was like, yeah. And they was like, well, have just a spag bowl. I was like, yes. So they invited me into their camper van, and they prepared a spag bowl, and they gave some to me. I was like, this is amazing. I love traveling. So that was, and they were Italian family. They're heading around France, but this is like day one, right? And they said, when you get to Turin, message us. So I did, and that was the very first contact I made. After that, everyone else I met was just through Instagram or word of mouth, whatever. And so no planning, and it actually worked out to be the best, because when you got no plan, you can't be disappointed, because you can't be let down, because every day is a bonus.
Do you keep everybody in your little black book of contacts now, or do you just have like this amazing memory where you go, I'm in Turin and this one guy near Le Mans once said to me, or do you actually write it down and make a note?
Yeah, so I do create notes, and I like make a note of where they messaged me, whether it was on Instagram, whether it was a YouTube comment, or if it was Facebook, or or whatever. Or if I met them and they gave me their phone number, I'll make a note of how they messaged me, right, and where I know them from. Because initially I was an idiot. Initially I was like, oh, well, I'm sure I remember that person, because how could I not? And then I realized, hang on, it got to the point where I was getting like 10, 15, 20 messages a day from people.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my word, this is extreme. I've got to start making a note now. So then I made notes, and then it got even more extreme, because I was like, well, actually, now I just wrote their name on my notes app on my phone. I was like, but were they on? How did they message me? Was it on? And then it got to the point where I was like trying to scroll through all my photos I posted, trying to find out who'd commented or whatever. That's when I started being like, okay, right, I've got to put down where they messaged me on and all this stuff. And so I literally would get to like arrive heading towards a city, and I'd literally have like 10, 20 people that I could. Like when I got to Athens, I think it was Athens or Thessaloniki, and I literally had like a list of like 20, 30 people that I was like, which one do I message to? Because they want to meet or go for a ride. Because that's how amazing people are. It was just so, and that's why that what you mentioned earlier, Marc, about that story about this is my my favorite story of the entire trip. Was I won't tell it again, because I think I said it on the Adventure Radio. But the one about when I was put in that interrogation room by just north of the Iraqi border, in eastern Turkey. And then I literally was like being interrogated for hours and hours, and I couldn't speak any Turkish back, and we're going in circles, and they think I'm a threat, whatever. And I finally was like, you know what? I've got loads of people on my phone from Turkey who messaged me who said they would help me out if I got in trouble. And I literally, this is what's crazy. Out of that contacts, I had loads of people, and it's crazy that the one person I chose happened to be Zafar, who was the commander of the Elite Special Forces SWAT team, and it was actually their boss. Like that is like that like how, what are the chances, right? It's like a movie.
I think, Ben, that's not just a reflection on how fantastic people are, but I think that's a reflection on you as well, and what we mentioned earlier about your personality and your attitude, and people are attracted to, which is fantastic, right?
Oh yeah, well I hope so. Yeah, I guess so.
So you're still relatively young at 26. I know we talked to Austin the other week, and he said he's got no interest in long distance travel anymore. Do you think the world's big enough for you to carry on doing what you were doing?
100%. I think when next year, when I can hopefully get back on the road again, whether I can get the Honda out of Pakistan is a whole other story. I don't know if I actually even get it out just because of bureaucracy and whatever. Now that I've got no link to government, now that Imran Khan's been ousted, I don't know how I'm going to get the bike out. It's just crazy. Everyone was really upset. Like, oh no, Imran Khan has been booted out. But I was really upset because my bike. I was like, well, how am I going to get my bike out now?
I'm sure he'll still have some influence.
I better say, I'm sure it'll still help.
Well, funny enough, actually, Abdul messaged me a few months ago and said, he said, any chance I can use the bike, for, he's got like a farmhouse out of Islamabad, and he said, any chance I can use the bike around on the farm? I was like, of course, do whatever you want with the bike. Like, you've been looking after it for years because of COVID. It's pretty much yours now. Like, whatever, use it freely. So who knows? It's probably now in pieces now. It's probably now completely destroyed. But it was serious. But I think it's also still on the same set of tires. I think it's been at the same set of tires for like 2 years now. So he'll probably have to change those tires. But yeah. So if I can't get the Honda out of Pakistan, then I'll have to start again. And which I don't mind. And I'm thinking, well, I'm so torn. This is why you guys are perfect. You can maybe guide me with your incredible knowledge. If I can't get the Honda out of Pakistan, I'm gonna have to start the trip again from England. And do I do it on the Bonneville, or do I buy another CRF? I don't know what to do. I love the Bonneville, but then also I want to go off road and do some trails. So I'm so torn at the moment, like what to do, like what kind of setup to go for. Because I want to do it again.
Both Jamie and I have got CRFs, don't you?
So my life's around CRFs. Clive and Noel surround CRFs. So you're speaking to absolute converts here. But also what I like about the CRF, and something you're hitting on, and actually I've got a question surrounding it, is they're a bit of an underdog, aren't they? They're a bit of a lot of people out there will call them vanilla and a bit meh. I love it for that. And so therefore I've got quite attached to my bike. I've built a bit of an actual relationship with my bike, nothing weird. So, but to hear you say I'd start again and I'm not really, I'd start again and I'm not that fussed. It surprises me, to be honest, because my bike's got a name and everything. So, but would you just happily leave yours there and go, oh, that was an experience, and off we pop on a different bike?
Oh, no way. It actually pains me to say that that bike has become. Remember I said earlier about how when I first saw the CRF, I was like, it didn't appeal to me. I wanted to go for a big, cool, big bike. And then as soon as I got the CRF and started, traveling on it, and every crashing it and every little dent has a story. Now it's like the most beautiful thing in the world, and Brilliant. It's the most, because it literally is a tank. Nothing can destroy it. It was going through like Eastern Europe and the Balkans in the middle of winter, and then Iran in the middle of summer, like 55 plus degrees Celsius, and it survived it all. Like, it's a machine. It's incredible. There's not a single bike out there that I know that like is as good as a CRF50. I think it's ultimate. And so I really don't want to have to ditch. I want to be able to get it out. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if it's going to be possible. It's going to be, I don't know. I'm still trying. I'm working on it at the moment. It's causing a logistical nightmare just because of permits and stuff expiring. And so I can't say anything too publicly in case I get arrested, in case anyone from the government of Pakistan listens to this podcast, and then I'm screwed. But basically, honestly, I love it so much. Everything about it is so great. And so it would pain me if I didn't get that out of Pakistan and couldn't see it again. But I would gladly start again, but I would love to get the bike out.
So thinking about the planning question again, and we're big fans of, well, we're only talking about a 2-week trip to Spain, of not doing very much planning. But is there some planning that in hindsight you probably should have done?
Oh, 100%. Every visa I got expired. every single visa. I pretty much got, I think, 3 of each visa in the end, because no joke. And what's funny, right, is that when I left England, I didn't even know where I was going. So I literally bought, I can't remember now exactly what it was. I think I had an Indian visa, an Iran visa. I had a Russian visa, just in case I went north. I think I had a Kazakhstan or Mongolian visa, just in case I went through the middle. And I didn't know where I was gonna like go when I'm heading east. Like if I was gonna go north of the Black Sea or south of the Black Sea, north of the Caspian, south of the I didn't know, so I just covered all my bases. Which is, looking back now, I was like, just an idiot. In the end, the Russian visa I never used the Mongolian one or Kazakhstan or whatever, because I ended up going south. But so those of those obviously all expired and it was a waste of money. But I wanted to like keep myself open, which was kind of smart, also kind of stupid, really, because I was just wasting money. But yeah, and then obviously, but even when I went south, even the route I did take, even those visas expired because I spent so long heading east. By the time I got to Turkey, the Iran visa had expired, had to get a new one. Then the Pakistan one expired, had to get a new one. The Indian visa expired, had to get a new one. So yeah, in hindsight, planning probably would have been smart. But also, if I planned, then I would have raced through to get there before the visas expired. And I had no issue getting another visa again. Like, it took a bit of a while and it was a bit of a faff and expensive. But if I'd gone for the initial visa entry point, I would have raced through in like a few weeks or a month or whatever, and I would have missed out on all the stuff I'd done. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, and you know what, Ben? Sorry to interrupt you. I know we talked about you being scared, but I'm slightly different now. Do you ever sit there and worry about what might come or how you might get there? Not scared. It's a different feeling. But do you ever think there and get anxious about how, why, where, when? You know, all of these general questions, which it hasn't happened. It might never happen.
Actually, no. I don't think I've ever. Maybe that is stupid. Yeah.
No, that's a very positive attribute, I think.
I think it's excellent. If you've never worried, then I think it's fantastic.
I think I just know that it's always. It's not in like an arrogant way. It's not like but I just know it's going to work out, and not in an arrogant way, thinking that always. It's just that people are so caring. People want to help you out, and if you're really motivated enough, if you spend enough time at a border, you will eventually get through. And it's not saying, you're doing anything wrong. It's just things always work out. They just always do when you're on the road. And I'm pretty sure you speak to any traveler, they will say the same thing. Things will work out. And I know that things will work out. Oh, sorry, I hit the microphone. But all the issues I've had, South America, Asia, whatever, everything's always gone to plan. Well, not gone to plan, but it's always, the plans always fallen apart, but it's always eventually worked out. And I think I know that. I basically just put faith in the universe and know it will work out. Like, even crossing into Iran, when I was leaving Azerbaijan trying to get into Iran, and being an idiot, because obviously I don't plan at all, I left it until the very last day of my visa before leaving Azerbaijan to cross into Iran. And with the Iran visa, you have like a certain date to enter. Once you then your visa starts from that date. It's a bit weird. Some days have a date when you have to enter, and then it's limited. But Iran is different. So I had to get to there by midnight of that point. This is me thinking that the border's open 24/7. Turns out borders aren't open 24/7. They close at like in the afternoon, right? So I think as long as I'm there before midnight, it's fine. So I leave Azerbaijan, Baku, but then also it's the Formula One race. Formula One race is on in Baku. This is back in 2018. I think it was the year that Ricciardo and Thingy had their crash. And so it was that year, and they closed the track for I can't remember if it was qualifying or practice, whatever. They closed the track, obviously, and there'd been signs all around the city saying if you're in the old town, you won't be able to get out during these dates. And I wasn't paying attention because I'm just an idiot. Trying to leave to go to Iran, and I'm locked in the middle of the track. Like, crap, no way! What's going on? Anyway, I went over to the barrier and I sat into the police, and they said, no, you can't come. And I was like, what? They got over an F1 official, someone from the FIA, whatever, comes over, and I said, listen, this is what's going on. I need to leave. And they actually, which is nuts, they actually opened up the barrier and they let me on to the track. I sadly wasn't allowed to do a full lap of the track, but I was able to do like a quarter of it, and it was and I got to take my bike onto the Baku track. It was nuts, and I managed to leave, and so that was first thing that worked out. Get to the Iranian border, turns out it's shut. It closed like 6 hours before I arrived in the night. And I'm like, what? So I just started giving out cigarettes to all the border guards, and eventually after like an hour, they were like, oh, okay. They called their boss, who was in the nearby village, and he came and opened the barrier for me, let me through. Then I crossed and then got to the Iran side. Same thing, that border's closed. then I need to get my carnet stamped for the vehicle. That the guy's gone to sleep, but they called him. Like everything just worked out well, and like I don't know, you just once you just stop worrying, and you just realize that everything's going to work out. And
just lay yourself at the mercy of fate.
Yeah, that's it, and that's when the best stories happen as well. Like if I'd actually planned and been a smart person and actually done everything properly and not left it to the last minute and not been an idiot, and then I would have missed out on all those amazing experiences. So actually, when I get back on the road and I continue my trip, I'm going to continue doing things exactly the same because actually it's great. It's great fun.
Favorite bits of kit that you've used, that you've got for traveling? What's worked really well for you?
Oh wow!
You're just not really a kit man. You just get on your bike and go.
I'm the opposite. Honestly, I'm literally. It's really funny because I've just spent all this time talking about how I don't plan or do anything. I'm like obsessed with gear. Gear's like my life. I spend my days, literally every single day on my lunch break or on the train. All I do is watch gear videos on YouTube. And it's like whether it's camera gear, panniers, soft bags, camping gear. I literally
gloves for me. I love gloves.
Yes. Oh yes. After this call, I'm going to ask you to send me a recommendation of summer gloves which have a touchscreen compatibility.
I know the very gloves because Greg sent me a pair to try out in Spain.
I know better ones. Sorry, Adventure Spec. Nox, Orsa are just the best gloves.
Utterly love the Adventure Spec Alpine glove. So we'll have a glove off, but it's an incredible glove. I loved it.
Now there's these Nox ones. They've got this boa thing so they don't fall off your hand in a crash. They've got these plastic things that if you do fall off, they slide rather than break your wrist. Absolutely brilliant gloves. A lot more expensive than the Adventure Spec ones though, but they're very, very good.
Two brilliant options for you straight away.
Oh, sweet. So Adventure Spec and Nox. Brilliant.
So some of your favourite bits of kit.
Okay. So, actually, you know what? Adventure Spec, this is a shout out. Adventure Spec actually sorted me out, thanks to Austin Vince's hookup, with a bash plate for the CRF and bark busters. And the bark busters, but this is back then, I didn't know how bad I knew I was bad, but when I fit the bark busters, I didn't realize just how bad I was at riding. And thank God I put those on because those bark busters saved me the whole way, and hence
everything.
Hence why I had no problems on the bike because the bash plate and those bark busters were a lifesaver. So my Garmin GPS unit, I didn't use it at all. Actually, in the end, I just ended up using my phone. What else? My front screen for the CRF. I ended up buying I got the front screen from Baja Works, but the window still hit me in the face. So I got a Puig extension, but it was still hit me in the face. So then I got another Puig extension, and then I think I had like 3 or 4 Puig extensions on. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Puig.
Yeah,
Puig.
No idea.
I don't know how you whatever.
You know what you mean.
And I had like 4 it was nuts. And then those were a lifesaver.
Can I just say, Ben, that's the second time I've copied you because I ride the rally. I had a screen extension. I was going through France, and wind was still hitting me in the face. And I even said to Jamie, "I'm going to chuck another one on because that's what they slab Ben did."
Yes.
True story. So I've got 2.
Okay, that has made my day. That is brilliant. Oh man, that's so cool. So I would say that I'm trying to think now. Like I had like an air pump. Speaking of punches, I had an air pump attached to my front fender that never left its bag for 2 years. What else? My Motion Pro trail tool, which I got from Adventure Spec. Shout out to Greg. Never had to use it because, well, firstly, I wouldn't have a clue what I'm doing with it. Actually, you know what? I've got a good one for everyone. I've recently just got these. I've always been riding. I had an intercom system on my Schuberth C3 Pro. Obviously, that helmet's still in Pakistan. So when I got into riding back in England, I like to listen to music. I don't know about you guys, but I personally love when I'm riding is to listen to the TAMP podcast. Hey. That can be the trailer. So, and I don't ride anywhere without your podcast on, but I can't hear it over 20 miles an hour with my AirPods on because that's what I've been using. I've been using AirPods, and after 20 miles an hour, I can't hear what's going on. I've recently got, for the first time, after riding bikes for, I don't know how long it's been, 17, for 9 years, I've never ever had those in-ear plugs.
The molded ones.
The molded ones. And I finally got some this year, and they are absolutely insane. I'll do a shout out to Custom Earplugs in Northampton who are insane. Look, honestly, it was amazing. And now I can actually hear. Yeah, I can go no matter how fast I want. I don't get the wind noise, but I can actually hear like over 20 miles an hour. That is probably the best thing I would say. And you can get them from loads. You can get them from Ultimate Ears and loads of companies do them. That is probably my biggest thing. I would never ever ride without them ever again. That is the best thing ever. I'm curious. What about you guys? What's your go-to?
I've got a Senna.
I've got a Senna on my list.
It's like the intercom system. It's the new mesh one. So you can pretty much, it's limitless. I think you can get up to 24 people chatting, and you have an app on your phone, and you can just scan each other's barcodes, and you all connect automatically.
But can you hear with the wind noise? You can still hear even though they're not in your ear.
I ride with the Senna 10C, and I've got the HD ones because I'm slightly hard of hearing, and I can ride it. So I can ride it on my CRF. I can also ride it on my Harley Davidson, which has got all the loud exhausts, and I can hear it at any speed. The Senna, I think, are the class leaders.
It's just great when you're traveling with people because you can say, right, should we stop now? Should we get a coffee? Look, there's a cafe, let's go there. Or, right, watch out, there's an idiot, mowing the lawn on the road or something like that.
And especially when you're on the trails, if Jamie's behind me and he's fallen off, if you're half a click away, you know to turn back and help out your mucker. Yeah. So you had this life-defining moment at age 17. You went off and you've become Traveller Ben King, I guess. That's your identity. That's how you've met it. What would Ben King, who hadn't had the car crash, what would he be doing now?
That's a great question. Okay, I'll make this short because I know you're probably falling asleep. So if I hadn't done, weirdly, I always wanted to be a teacher. Since I was really young, I've always always found it really rewarding working with kids. I used to be a tennis coach for many years, and so teaching tennis or teaching music, that was always what I loved to do. And I always remember my dad actually said, no, don't be a teacher, go into marketing. It's way more money and way more. I don't know why I didn't mention that, because it's funny enough how 9 years later, actually, or 10 years later or longer, I actually end up in marketing. But yeah, so back then, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a teacher, but I was torn between doing that or moving to Australia and I wanted to become a session drummer, because drumming has always been my thing. I've drummed for many, many years. I wanted to become a professional session drummer. So I was looking at either going to Australia to do that or going into teaching. So that's what I've done. So who knows, if I hadn't had that car crash, it's weird to think what I could be doing right now.
Right. Final question. Of the literally several places that you went to, where would you recommend people go to?
As a continent, I'd say South America. And actually, I want to live there. So when I've finished traveling, I want to settle down in South America because I loved it so much. In terms of actual country, people always say this probably, but Iran is, everyone who goes to Iran will say the same thing. It's just the greatest place. But then also Pakistan. So Iran, Pakistan, those two countries are just insane. The people are amazing. The food is amazing. The landscape was amazing. Yeah, Iran, Pakistan, just awesome. But don't go during the summer. If you're going to go to Iran and you go to southern Iran, don't go during the summer because it's like 55 degrees Celsius. It's insane. Let's go in the winter and it's 30 degrees.
Oh my goodness. Don't you just love him? Thank you so much, both of you, for joining. That was really good fun. That chat lasted nearly 2 hours and it was fairly non-stop. Absolutely brilliant. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, listen, drop me a line. Let me know if you're going to the ABR or not. It'd be great to meet as many people as possible and grab a beer. I'd hate to think that I'm organising anything and just end up standing there all on my own. Very sad. All right, see you next week. I got another great one lined up next week as well. There's going to be some great stories. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate your support. Don't forget you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you really appreciate what we do, you could consider supporting us on Patreon or buy us a coffee. Links are available on our website, which is tampodcast.com, tampodcast.com, where we also have a limited selection of branded stuff. But either way, please keep listening and spreading the word. See you next time.